What is going on? And welcome in, everyone, to another episode of Beyond the Tape. Today, we're doing a live 2-round mock draft. It is not often I do one of these live, so I'm excited to be able to have y'all be a part of the conversation. So join us in the live chat. If you want to hear your thoughts heard before the end of the show, definitely send in some super chats. Let me hear some thoughts. So would love to hear any and all thoughts on this 2-round mock draft. We've got 64 picks worth of fun to jump through. Wanted to do this one a little bit later on in the day just to make sure we have a little bit of an opportunity for some more people to be able to trickle on in and get into the mock draft today. So with all that said, I am just going to go ahead and tweet this out from our main account and then try to hopefully get some people in here joining us for this 2-round mock draft. And while you're having your thoughts being heard, let me know some teams. Like what's your favorite team here? I'll have the comments pulled up here. So if you're watching on YouTube, definitely let me hear your thoughts, man. I want to hear who your favorite squad is and then what you're looking for out of this 2-round mock draft. Again, I don't normally do these live, so I'm excited to be able to do something a little different here. And it's, Combine Eve. Tomorrow is when, things start to change when it comes to like how high can someone go and whatnot. So I want to have a little bit of fun before we do, obviously, eventually a post-combine post-combine NFL mock draft. So going to go ahead, update the thumbnail, and then let people trickle on in. The advantage of this is, as I'm going to go ahead and switch things over to go ahead and get our screen set up, our advantage is that we already know what's going to happen here at number 1 overall, so I'm not really too worried about that side of everything. Sorry, almost the right one. There we go. So we already know what's going to happen at number 1 overall, so going to keep letting people kind of trickle on into live chat. Fernando Mendoza is going to go number 1 overall, so I'll spare us all the controversy there. I do have a thought in mind here for number 2, so sorry, Jets fans, I am going to take this pick out of your hands, but from here on, I have no idea where this mock's going to go, so I'm really kind of excited to have a conversation, have you guys be a part of the mix here for what we're trying to do here in this 2026 2-round mock draft. So Mendoza goes 1 to the Raiders. No surprise, they get their signal caller of the future. And before we get into this interesting Jets pick, I did also want to note, great time to become a subscriber over at our website, 32beatwriters.com. Use the promo code DRAFT, get a full month free. So my big board, all the nuggets with it, everything Z's doing with the draft class and correlating that into dynasty rankings and redraft fantasy rankings, all that at your disposal, potentially for free. So definitely a good time. Go ahead and sign up over at the website, 32Beat Writers. Promo code is DRAFT. All right. I think we've got a couple more people in here now. Let's have some fun. And I have to tip my hat to Sam Teets because he basically kind of took this idea and implemented it in a video before I got the chance to. But I had this idea of what I wanted to do here at 2. And then I saw on the Daft on Draft podcast, Sam Teets do that exact thing. And I just took that as like confirmation. Let's have some fun here. Let's explore something I haven't done in a mock draft at all this entire draft cycle. And it's right here at number 2 with the New York Jets. I've typically gone back and forth between Ruben Bain or Arvell Reese, but I've also been saying this whole time, the Jets are going to need a ex-boundary wide receiver to free up Garrett Wilson, specifically to try to get him in the slot. So what if they did that with their first pick and they just made Carnell Tate wide receiver 1 off the board, play him outside, frees up Garrett Wilson, another Ohio State wide receiver? What could go wrong? Dominant ball winner. We don't know what's going on under center. And especially if it's Justin Fields, a big body, big wide catch radius like Carnell Tate, makes a lot of sense to me, man. Now the question is, are you going to take a wide receiver? It's a premium position. Are you going to take him over the prospect scores you give Ruben Bain, the upside that you see with Arvell Reese? That's the conversation to be had here. But wanted to do something different. And really, considering wide receiver is such a big strength in this class, the Jets could wait, or they could go get one of these premier top 3 guys at the top of the class. So that's kind of what I wanted to explore here. That's kind of the direction we're moving forward in this mock draft as Carnell Tate goes number 2 overall. Okay, well, with Tate off the board, that's really going to affect some of the teams right once we get to 4, 5, and 6. Specifically 6, been making him a Browns pick a lot. So that then takes us to the Cardinals here at 3. Could be an interesting Arvell Reese spot. David Bailey is certainly a player of interest here for me. CeCe Moe-Noah feels like the kind of guy that's becoming a little chalk for this pick. And I think that's the direction I'm going to go with. I think I'm going to go with Moe-Noah here. I could just see Mike LaFleur wanting to just say, hey, get my tackle tandem solidified for the years to come. We've got Paris Johnson Jr. Let's go ahead and Francis Moe-Noah, take him off the board, make him OT1 solidifying that offensive line in Arizona at pick number 3. So again, if you're in the live chat, one of your teams coming up, or if you just want to shout out a pick, what you would do here at 4 for the Tennessee Titans, let me hear it. Let me hear your thoughts in the live chat as we move along. Awesome. So that takes us then to the Tennessee Titans. Ruben Bain Jr., David Bailey, Arvell Reese, all options here, plus potentially receiver. But I don't think I'm going to go receiver here. The Tyson injury risk is certainly apparent. I mean, Makai Lemon would be a whole lot of fun. In a lot of ways, it's just like, but what if you drafted an Xavier Restrepo type of player, but like in the top 5? So like part of me kind of wants to see what Cam Ward could do with the Makai Lemon, but I won't do that. Not here. Bain or David Bailey. Part of me kind of wants to just go David Bailey. But Arvell Reese is also interesting. And if he doesn't go here, where does he go? That becomes the next question. They could use an upgraded off-ball linebacker, and they could use some pass rush juice. And that's where the pass rush juice gets interesting here, because Bain, Reese, Bailey all provide that. So you want a true edge? Do you want a guy who can play inside and out in Bain? Or do you want the off-ball linebacker edge hybrid? Live chat, let me hear it. Anybody throw in a comment. What do we want to do here at number 4 overall for the Tennessee Titans? I'm kind of leaning Reese, but Bain is the next highest guy on my board. Bailey's kind of the most fun, though, because you can get some isolated one-on-one opportunities with Jeffrey Simmons being there. So live chat, let me hear it. What do we got? Any big shouts? Otherwise, I'm going to go Reese here. I think Reese, I could see a world where they're just going for the upside swing. They have time to figure it out. That being said, it's not really a Robert Saleh type of guy. I can't really think of a guy where Saleh's had in this kind of vein. Versus David Bailey, I could at least say, hey, he's the guy who drafted Will McDonald while he was in York. I'll go with Arvell Reese. Not seeing anything really come through in the live chat. So let's go Arvell Reese. I'll go Arvell Reese to the Tennessee Titans. Potential pass rush juice for Tennessee. All right, then it takes us to the Giants here at 5. Could we go receiver or do we go offensive line here? That's kind of the 2 big questions. If you're going receiver, it's probably Jordyn Tyson, but the injury risk then becomes kind of, I don't know. Do you have the risk appetite for that? And then if you go Fano, you're kind of getting to the front of the offensive line drop off. So Fano could definitely make some sense. I don't know if they're looking to go get another, Neighbors coming off an injury. I don't know if Tyson's going to be, as much as the on-tape stuff is awesome, I don't know if they're looking to go get a guy with injury history. And Makai Lemon would be great, but Neighbors is kind of a Z/slot. So I'm going to go with Spencer Fano. We kind of did this in the last mock that we did where the offensive tackles came off the board pretty early. And frankly, just because the 2 guys I think are going to be clearing away the top 2 guys for a lot of teams when it comes to like assured hit rate, right? Like who these teams feel safest with, Fano and I think Moino are the top 2 guys. I can see a world where they both do go by top 6. Really, I can't really see them, one of those 2 getting past Cleveland Browns here at pick number 6. So with both the tackles gone, we're kind of in a pickle here for Cleveland. And then do we want to go wide receiver? That would be the next most obvious thing. And are you okay with it being Makai Lemon? And frankly, here I am going to do that. I'm going to go Makai Lemon to the Cleveland Browns. I get it. The size profile isn't for everyone, but to me, he's the first receiver I would take off the board this year. There's just so much reliability that he brings to the table. In this day and age, I don't really mind my best receiver being a Z/slot guy. I don't mind it. We're playing with 3 receiver sets more often than not nowadays. And while Cedric Tillman hasn't been as good as some of the flashes have been, and he's battled injuries, Tillman does have at least some of those moments without some of the boneheaded kind of back, working against him as like Jerry Jeudy does. So here we're saying Cedric Tillman hopefully stays healthy. He's our X receiver. He'll play on the line of scrimmage. Makai Lemon then becomes our Z/slot. And really, the slot wide receiver spot is up for grabs in Cleveland for the long term. So we'll go with Makai Lemon here at 6. Taking us then to the Washington Commanders, Ruben Bain Jr., Caleb Downs, David Bailey. I think this is a home run scenario in all different fronts for the Commanders. Like, I think these are all guys. And apparently they met with Jeremiah Love, but I'm not going to do the Love thing, at least not here. I really feel like Bain has got to be towards the top of their list. Also could be a team that trades back, but I don't know who's really itching to come up specifically for Jordyn Tyson or Ruben Bain Jr. Maybe you could do a flip with Washington and Kansas City. That wouldn't be crazy. But I think I'm going to go Ruben Bain Jr. To me, he feels like a player that Dan Quinn is going to jump all over. Real quick, let me just check out the trade chart real fast. How much would it take for Kansas City just to move up a couple picks? Because I also think they would absolutely love to have Ruben Bain. So it's a difference in about 150 points. So the problem is They have 2 5s, but no other real duplicates, no 6, no 7. So I'll just hold tight. I can't think of a mock. It had to have been a long time since now that I've gone Ruben Bain Jr. to the Washington Commanders. So let's do that here. I think they would love his floor. Inside out versatility. Dan Quinn's going to want guys who can stop the run. Ruben Bain Jr. brings that to the table. And also Dan Quinn, when he first got to Dallas, was kind of on the cutting edge of utilizing stunts and twists. With a player like Ruben Bain Jr., I think that would just give him a cheat code when it comes to using those gamesmanship up front. New Orleans Saints here at 8. Last time out, we did the running back move. We did Jeremiah Love. And frankly, I did kind of like how that made up for that draft. We then went, I think, receiver in the 3rd round, offensive line in the 2nd. And all in all, I kind of think that put that offense in a really, really interesting spot. Looking real quick at their roster. I think it's a little early to go Vega Ioane. I don't think we're going to go Peter Woods this high. I don't really feel the need to do that here. Tyson, his injury history, you already have the injury history with Chris Olave. So are you looking to get another receiver who's battled to stay on the field? I don't know. I really don't know. David Bailey's interesting, but he's just like the antithesis of who Mickey Loomis is typically drafted at edge. So that's kind of my reservation there. Downs is interesting because I do think safety is like a sneaky need, but I don't know. Julian Blackman played pretty well last year. You still have Justin Reed. I think we're just going to go back to the Jeremiah Love well. I just think him plus Devin Neal for the long term, that's a really good combination. Sonny Styles too. Hold on. Let me think about Sonny Styles here. Because obviously Demario Davis is great. And Pete Werner's had some moments. I thought he had a pretty good rookie year, and I thought he was a little bit better 2 years ago than he was in 25. But is he a fit for Brandon Staley's defense? That's the question. I think I'll stick with Jeremiah Love, but I'd be curious, Saints fans, let me hear your thoughts on Sonny Styles being the pick at 8. That'd be kind of an interesting guy for Demario Davis to pass the torch to. But in a lot of ways, and I actually had a comment, so I'll use this opportunity to kind of address it. I had a comment on the last mock draft where we did go Jeremiah Love at 8 to New Orleans, asking about why no mention of Alvin Kamara. I don't really see a world where Alvin Kamara's back. I get it, he's a franchise legend, and I know Mickey Loomis is just perennially kicking the can down the road when it comes to the salary cap. But this has got to be the offseason, right? You have a rookie contract quarterback you're going into year 2 with. Outside of Chris Olave's contract, you're pretty cheap at wide receiver right now. I think this is the time to shed the Alvin Kamara contract from the books to get a little bit cheaper for the years to come. So I think that move is going to be coming this offseason. So Jeremiah Love plus Devin Neal for the long term. Love being the big play guy and the pass catcher. Neal, really shifty, smart, good vision, good tempo to his runs. Being the guy between the tackles, yeah, sign me up for that 1-2 punch for the next 5 years in NOLA. All right, Kansas City Chiefs. Oh, man, I really think David Bailey would be towards the top of their list here, but I kind of told myself I was thinking Peter Woods here. They just have a unique opportunity here to have Peter Woods be the potential Chris Jones replacement. He's not getting any younger. And I wonder if Woods is the guy they see as having the upside to replace Chris Jones. So I haven't done it in a long time. Let's do it. Let's go Peter Woods here at 9 over David Bailey and Caleb Downs. That's kind of the one thing that worked against this. So it's a little tough doing this stuff live. But again, I think they're in a unique position to where not only can they get a running mate for Chris Jones, but they can get a guy who has the ceiling of being, coming into this year, a top 5 pick in the class. And I wonder if they look at him as someone who could be their eventual Chris Jones replacement. So the Cincinnati Bengals, you're kind of between 3 great options here: David Bailey, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles. Last time out, we did David Bailey. I had a back and forth with one of the Bengals fans in the comment section. Bailey versus Downs. One of these 2 guys, I think, is the top guy on their board. Cross your fingers, hope this guy falls to you. His argument was Downs. I think it's Bailey, to be completely honest with you. You lose Trey Hendrickson. I think Bailey's the guy that could help take Shamar Stewart to the next level. Joseph Osai is a free agent this offseason. Hendrickson's going to be gone, obviously. Miles Murphy with some flashes, but it hasn't really panned out. And Jordan Battles, he can play in the box already. 617 snaps last year at free safety, though, so maybe they view him as a free safety. Oh, man, I really just don't see David Bailey get out of the top 10, to be completely honest with you. So is there a team that would trade up for David Bailey here? The Detroit Lions at 17. What would that look like? Holy cow. What would that look like? Let me just look at the trade chart real quick. Let's look at the trade chart. Let's look at Detroit. Let's see what picks they have. What ammunition does Brad Holmes have to be able to make this move up the board? It's a difference of about 350 points. So it'd be the second, and then they would probably get something in return from Cincinnati. About 60 points worth in return from Cincy. So that looks like pick 110. On one side, I could see where the Bengals do this. Move back 7 spots, get an extra top 50 pick at the expense of pick 110. Lions come up, they take David Bailey. And then what would that probably leave the Bengals with if we did that? What would the Bengals then be looking at? At 17? The other Texas A&M pass rusher, Cassius Howell. Another athletic project, Keldrick Falk. I don't know. Part of me kind of wants to do that trade, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go Caleb Downs here. I'm going to give the Bengals fan kind of what he was looking for. I think it'd be David Bailey to be the one guy that could trump Caleb Downs, but I could also see the world where, hey, who's the guy who raises the floor of this defense? That's Caleb Downs. So let me get to the Miami Dolphins, and I've been hearing they want to go more of a 4-man front, so I don't think David Bailey would be the guy here, but again, we're kind of at the spot here where like someone's got to move up for David Bailey. He's too good to keep falling. The Dolphins do have some extra picks because of Philly and Houston, so I don't know if they're absolutely itching to move back. Who could come up? Who's looking for a pass rusher? The Bucks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And they move on from pick 46, get back pick 111. That could work. Hold on, let me just double check with the points. Tampa Bay, they got a 1050 for pick 15. It's 1250 for Miami, so they only really need to give up 200 points. So it could be a third and a fourth, frankly, for that. Dude, if you're Tampa doing this, I think you're jumping all over this. And then if you're Miami, we won't get to it today, but extra third-round pick, and you're still going to get the guy I'd probably give you here, 11, we're going to force this trade. And now I can say in the title, 2-round mock draft with trades. Tampa Bay moves up, and they get David Bailey at pick 11. I mean, that would just be an absolute home run of home run situations. And let's update the title. Everyone can now refresh their browser. Now they have an updated title for the YouTube. Not lying. I'm just waiting for it to happen. And then Sonny Styles becomes the pick at 12. Like, that's a home run of home runs of home runs there for the Dallas Cowboys. If Sonny Styles makes it 12, don't think twice about it. Sprint the card in. We can get corner with the next pick, or we can go defensive line with the next pick. DeMarvion Overshown was a top 5 linebacker throughout the entire cycle for me last time, or when he came out of Texas. Another safety turned linebacker. I'm just praying, crossing my fingers that he can be the guy he was pre-injury. And I know he came back last year, but small sample size, still hard to glean like what he looks like over 17 games next year. So giving him a running mate of Sonny Styles, sign me up for that. That could be a whole lot of fun if Overshown does get back to 100%. LA Rams, both those offensive tackles are off the board. I'm going to give them CD1, Jermon McCoy. This is becoming more and more chalk. They hired the Tennessee defensive backs coach to be their DB's coach. So this one, to me, this one's kind of a layup. That one's really easy. So just to reset the board, just in case our viewers have gone up here. So appreciate everyone tuning in. Definitely send in some super chat, or definitely send in some live chats. Help us make some of these picks. And if you want to hear your thoughts, I'll make sure if you send in a super chat, I will respond to each and every super chat before we end this 2-round mock draft stream. So resetting the board here. Mendoza goes 1. I want to explore what would happen if you take Cornell Tate off the board at number 2 and give the Jets the physical X receiver they're looking for. What we know is the pick then at 3. We deliberated a little bit on pick 4, decided to go Arvell Reese, then a Spencer Fano, Makai Lemon to the Browns to play Z/slot opposite of Cedric Tillman. Ruben Bain Jr. feels like a Dan Quinn type through and through. Jeremiah Love plus Devin Neal, sign me up for that as the backfield of the future in New Orleans. Peter Woods, a really unique time for Kansas City to be potentially passing the torch from Chris Jones to Peter Woods over the next 2 years. Caleb Downs raising the floor of that Cincinnati defense. Easily could have gone David Bailey. And since Bailey fell to 11, Miami, they're in a resetting window, right? Like, they're not looking to win next year. They have the Tua Tagovailoa contract still currently over their heads. So they move back. The Bucs decide to give up a third and a fourth to go get the second best pass rusher. And honestly, if we're completely honest, the best pure pass rusher in this class. Bain's got him in run defense, and that's why he's my edge one, but purely pass rush, David Bailey through and through. And I mean, this is the guy the Bucs have been missing. And then Sonny Styles, perfect scheme fit opposite next to DeMarvion Overshown at a big-time position of need for the Dallas Cowboys. Jermon McCoy, Mike Renner was actually just on Check the Mic, and his comp for McCoy is Dominic Rodgers-Cromartie. Big, athletic, fast corner. Makes a lot of sense. I can totally see that. And frankly, he's the physical corner that the Rams don't have with Darius Williams and Emmanuel Forbes on the roster. Baltimore Ravens, you're on the clock here at 14. I kind of think about Mansour Delane. We did that just when you guys eventually see the Fixing the Franchise for the Baltimore Ravens. That will come out tomorrow. We decided to go Mansour Delane there at 14. Not to give away too many of my cards here, but like I did, the way the board played out, that was an interesting fit. But because I'm doing that tomorrow, let's go Jordyn Tyson here. They've been looking for an X receiver, DeAndre Hopkins, or the ghost of DeAndre Hopkins that they've had played for them the last few years. You know, he plays the role, but it's not DeAndre Hopkins of 5 years ago and 10 years ago. And then Tess Walker, you know, they kind of wanted to develop into that, you know, X field stretcher, but it hasn't really fully come together. They could wait for Malachi Fields in the second round, but also no guarantee he fully makes it to that second round pick for the Ravens. So they'll take the injury risk. They'll go Jordyn Tyson. He's the X receiver. Then you move Bateman to the Z. Zay Flowers becomes your slot receiver. A little bit of a gamble, but I feel better about taking that gamble at 14 than I would if I was the Titans at 4, the Giants at 5. All right, now we're back to the Miami Dolphins and corners, their biggest position of need. Jack Jones hitting free agency, Rasul Douglas getting old. They move back, get an extra third-round pick and an extra fourth-round pick, and they still get one of the guys I would have heavily considered for them at pick 11. Not to toot my own horn here, but round of applause around the war room here in Miami. I think that's ideal, and it shades of the Minnesota Vikings the year they moved back and still got Christian Darrisaw. I believe they traded back with the Jets. And it was like, man, that was a good spot to take Christian. That was a great spot to take Christian Darrisaw. Move back an extra, I think, second and third round pick, or 2 extra thirds. That's what it was, 2 extra thirds. Granted, they turned into Wyatt Davis from Ohio State and Kellen Mond. So basically, they wasted the 2 third round picks, but the process still elite, and that's what we're going for here with Miami. New York Jets, they went Cornell Tate. This would have been a great Peter Wood spot, but I almost wonder if Caleb Banks is maybe the guy they would be willing to take a shot on here at 16, or Caden McDonald. Could they go Caden McDonald? That'd be a lot of fun. Linebackers are kind of off the board. The top 2 corners are gone. Yeah, let's go Caden McDonald. I'm just a little bit lower on Caleb Banks than most people. Really, my IDL 2 is Lee Hunter, but I think this is a team that's looking for youth. Don't really mind waiting a little bit. So I think I'm going to go with the upside play of here with Caden McDonald. High-level run defender, really good athlete. It's going to test really well this week at Indy. And really the lateral movement is rare for someone 320 plus. So I'm going to go Caden McDonald to fill in the shoes left by Quinn Williams in that midseason trade. So Cornell Tate, Caden McDonald, 2 Buckeyes. Jets fans, let me hear your thoughts, man. That sounds pretty exciting about laying a foundation for years to come. And frankly, 2 more Buckeyes. Maybe that's all Justin Fields needs, is to be surrounded by more Buckeyes. And then, frankly, it sets you up next year. I'm not the world's biggest Julian Sain fan, but let's just go ahead and complete the Buckeye overhaul. Julian Sain, Jeremiah Smith, let's freaking go. All right, Detroit Lions next up here at 17. Thought about the move up for them. Could still just go Cassius Howell here. Don't hate that whatsoever. But I think I'm going to fall back on my laurels again. I'm wondering what's happening with Taylor Decker. Really, the question would be here: do we want to go Caden Proctor to mix it up just a little bit? Proctor would be interesting in the sense that you could play him at guard if you feel like Decker does come back, but I feel like they need a true tackle. And you can get guard later. So I'm going to go Caleb Lomu. I'm going to trust my board. I like Lomu just a little bit more than Proctor. I don't hate Proctor, but more of a late first round guy. And I think within, by year 3 of Caleb Lomu, when you add a little bit more muscle to his mass and to his frame, I think we're going to be talking about a guy with great footwork, really solid in pass protection. And once he adds a little bit of muscle mass, he'll be good enough in the run game. But really, you already have the best run blocking right tackle in football in Penei Sewell. So I think you already got that side kind of figured out. Pass protector on the other side makes a lot of sense to me. Minnesota Vikings here at 18. I've been talking with some Vikings fans, and I've been a little surprised. I have basically 50% of Vikings fans I talked to about this. Specifically, I'm talking about YouTube comments here. They love the Avion Terrell fit. And then the other half are like, no, keep him away. Like, I don't want him whatsoever. And one thing I do want to note out that is, I think, a fair point is that Brian Flores doesn't typically play rookies. And that's fair. And especially considering the more you learn about this Kwesi Adofo-Mensah thing, what was going on there, free agency was basically run by KOC and Brian Flores. So I could totally see a world where, they're not looking to go get Avion Terrell. They're just going to bring back Isaiah Rodgers and try to fill in the gap throughout the rest of free agency for that defensive side of the ball. So with that said, no Jeremiah Love. So that takes him off the board. Do we just go Dylan Thieneman? And again, I know Flores doesn't want to play rookies, but Thieneman, I think, is a different breed. Man, I still look at that corner room, and it is rough, dude. It is freaking rough. But I'm also looking at the defensive tackle group right now. Could this team go Caleb Banks? Right? Hargrave, Allen. I think Allen's a free agent. Hargrave is the guy they can cut, save a lot of money. And that leaves you then with Jalen Redmond, who's a really good run defender. And then Caleb Banks could be like the pass rush specialist next to him. So Thieneman or Banks, or we stick with old reliable and Avion Terrell, but I kind of want to give that a break. Dylan Thieneman, or do we go with Caleb Banks? Lee Hunter's also in consideration here, and it's also tough. Sometimes you see a draft comp and you just can't get it out of your head. And Jordan Reed has comped Lee Hunter to Pat Williams, who was a Viking legend. So once you see that, it's like, shit, I can't get that out of my head. Let's go Lee Hunter. Let's do it. Let's put Pat Williams back in Minneapolis. Let's do it. Let's go Lee Hunter. Him or Caleb Banks, I think, make a lot of sense there. But Jalen Redmond, good football player, undrafted free agent. I think they got a hit there, but they still need another D tackle. This is a great year to need a D tackle. And frankly, I'm kind of ashamed I haven't done it in any mocks yet for the Minnesota Vikings. So let's go Lee Hunter at 18. And then we'll probably go secondary once we get to the second round. Or center. Center is definitely in play because there's just no way Ryan Kelly's playing for them next year. All right, Carolina Panthers. This is typically where I go Kenyon Sadiq, or I'll go with an edge rusher. I've also gone Caleb Banks here. But, I've been having Cassius Howell fall in a lot of these mocks, and we're about to find out this week. There's been some rumors circulating that the arm length measurement was maybe done by a staffer who was maybe inexperienced in doing it. So let's have some fun. Let's have Cassius Howell come off the board earlier than he normally does in my mock drafts. And let's say, hey, we get some new arm length measurements that kind of eliminates that area of potential weakness. I still don't think he's a great run defender, just like when you watch him on tape. But if he does at least, have adequate arm length, you can at least say, hey, is this something we could teach? Because he does have a pretty strong lower half. So I think he can hold at the point of attack. It's just more so willingness and maybe some techniques, some coaching about how he wants to play the run. But also a guy with one of the best spin moves in this class, great inside counters, good first step, good bent, like really nice pass rusher. So throwing him in the mix with Nick Squirt, Uman, and Yellen, hey, if two of those three guys hit, you've got a really interesting pass rush in Carolina. And then that takes us to the Dallas Cowboys. This could have been an interesting Cassius Howell spot. They went Sonny Styles. Could they go Caleb Banks, right? Kenny Clark on the market, save you a lot of money, or really not on the market. You could cut him. No dead cap by that move. If you cut him, he's also got a ton of injuries in his past. So you got Osa Digizua, though. So I'll stick with Osa, and Quentin Williams is the 1-2 on the inside. Keldrick Falk feels like a logical thing, right? Like the team wanted to get better against the run. Sonny Styles didn't miss a tackle until the college football playoff. Let's go Keldrick Falk here to really, rest in peace, to replace Marshawn Nealand. Again, I said this in yesterday's video, 988. If anybody is battling with mental health, bipolar, anything, if you need someone to talk to, 988, it's a great resource there. Rest in peace both to Rondell Moore and to Marshawn Nealand. Pittsburgh Steelers at 21. I'm not going to do the Ty Simpson thing. Don't worry, Steelers fans. I hear you. I know you're tired of seeing it, but I'm telling you, I'm pretty sure that's going to be the pick. So I'm looking at the receivers, and like Boston's interesting, Concepcion and Omar Cooper. All those guys are super interesting to me. Oh, man. Boston could be fun. It's a little redundant with DK, and I've done Concepcion so many times. Or I just piss off all the Steelers Nation and do Ty Simpson. I stick to my guns. This is tough. This is the downside of doing it live. You guys get to see my deliberating face. What do we think? Receiver or quarterback? Let me hear some thoughts. Somebody send in something. Whatever the first few things I see here, that's what I'll go with. Wide receiver or Ty Simpson basically are the options here. Boston, Concepcion, Cooper, or Ty. What do we think here for the Pittsburgh Steelers at 21? And if Ty doesn't go here, we're probably not having him come off the board until 34 to Arizona. Maybe 39 to Cleveland, 43 maybe to Miami. Maybe. 43 Miami could be an interesting fit. But I do think Ty's going to go round one. I hate to bump people out. I think Ty's going to go round one, man. Especially considering now you're starting to hear buzz that he could go as high as 13, and like how much of that is just smoke around the league? Who's to say? But I do think he goes first round, man. I'll pass on it though, and I'll stick with Casey Concepcion. I do think he's a really awesome compliment, opposite of DK Metcalf. You keep the two-letter name working for the top two receivers. That's always fun, too. But DK to play on the outside. Casey Concepcion, you probably play him in the slot, to be completely honest. Mike McCarthy is going to use a lot of three receivers. So let's play Concepcion. He could also be a Z. I think totally like Luther Burden usage here for Concepcion makes a ton of sense. Z slot. But I think for McCarthy, I could totally see a world where he puts him in the slot, three-way goes, take advantage of how explosive he is in and out of breaks. Really, the one knock on Concepcion and his profile is the drops. That's the one thing working against him. But I think that's clean. I think you can clean that up. To me, the harder skill set is getting open, and Concepcion does that at a pretty high level. And I think also, I wonder where the drops would be if he had more than just 1 year getting to play real receiver, right? Like 2 years at NC State, he's basically just a slot gadget player because they have really bad quarterback play at NC State, and they just had to gimmick him the ball. Versus Texas A&M, he got to actually play receiver, screen game, running intermediate routes, good deep separator as well. So I wonder with just more volume and more opportunities to play real receiver, where does that ultimately take Casey Concepcion? So maybe the Steelers getting a discount, maybe, but we'll go with Casey Concepcion there at 21. Though I will say I think it's going to be Ty Simpson there at 21. I really do. Los Angeles Chargers at 22. Man, I have been wanting to go Caleb Banks in one of these mocks for the Chargers, specifically since being at the Senior Bowl. And I didn't see it live, but then I saw it on the broadcast feed when Jim Harbaugh sees Caleb Banks and the reps he was having day 2 at the Senior Bowl and just the grin on his face. I'm going to go Caleb Banks here at 22. I've been wanting to explore this possibility, and then we'll go offensive line, obviously, with the second-round selection here for the LA Chargers. But, man, that'd be a whole lot of fun. I know they're bringing back Tear Tart. Still got Deshaun Hand, but, man, I think that heavy-handed pass rush juice, especially with a couple of edge rushers hitting the market this year, if they bring back 2 of those 3 between Mac, Adafe Owe, and Tui Tuipulotu, then added the interior pass rush juice of Caleb Banks, assuming he stays healthy, that might be a way of offsetting some of that pass rush leaving in free agency. Philadelphia Eagles here at 23. This is a team I've kind of struggled with. I think outside corner is definitely a spot they're going to have to address here. But offensive line is definitely an area of concern as well, and that's kind of where we're getting a little tricky. Kenyon Sadiq makes a lot of sense as well. And we're getting to the point where it's like, okay, we're running out of options for Kenyon Sadiq. Vega Ioane, you plug him in where Landon Dickerson potentially might be leaving in via retirement. Let me see if there's any update there on Landon Dickerson. But if he retires, man, that's a big hole there at left guard. Reportedly plans to play in 2026. Okay. Per Bleeding Green Nation. I'll take it. 2 centerpieces plan to return. Philadelphia Sports Nation. Okay. You know what? So let's say Landon Dickerson's still there, and let's say Lane Johnson's healthy. So we'll hold on just a little bit longer on Vega Ioane. Really good football player and easily could have gone the pick right before this. So I'm going to go outside corner. It's been a couple of mocks since I went outside corner for the Eagles. So Eagles fans, let me hear who's your top dog here? Like who's your ideal choice for a boundary corner? Is it Cisse? Is it Avion Terrell and you move Cooper DeSheen outside, or you play Terrell outside? And if Vic Fangio's defense, I think Terrell would be just fine playing outside corner. Or is it Colton Hood? Hood, I could totally see playing on the outside and keep DeSheen in the slot. So I'll give it a couple moments. Eagles fans, let me know what corner are we thinking here? Hood, Cisse, or Terrell? I think those would be the guys. We might be able to get Chris Johnson to you in the second round, but honestly, no guarantee there. No guarantee. If we're going off my board, solely my board, it'd be Avion Terrell. And again, I think he'd be just fine between slot and outside. And you have Cooper DeJean, who, when he played outside last year, played pretty good for the Eagles. So I'm going to go Avion Terrell. Best player available, best corner available. I'll go Avion Terrell. And he can play outside. I think it's fine. Especially when you're talking off coverage, a lot of quarters for Vic Fangio. I think Terrell would be just fine. Or you play DeJean outside, and that's totally fine as well. All right, Cleveland Browns, we went wide receiver at 6. So now we're going to go with one of those offensive linemen. I'm going to go Monroe Freeling. I think the upside's there. His team's not in a rush to win. So Freeling is definitely pretty thin for, a 6'7" tackle. That being said, he's still 320 pounds or thereabout. We'll get the official measurements this week. But you're going to need to add 20, maybe you're going to have to add at least 10 pounds, but maybe even 20 pounds worth of muscle and weight just in general. Like, honestly, just even if it's bad weight, just add a little bit of weight to this guy. Ideally muscle, but we're just going to need to bulk this guy up. And once he gets there, I think by year 3, we're going to have a really interesting prospect, really solid end to his season in pass protection. It's just about like seeing a little bit more of the moving people off the line of scrimmage, holding on and maintaining blocks in the run game. So I think give him 2 more years, opportunity to work out in a full-time regiment, right? Like right now he's part-time student, part-time athlete. Next level gets to be a full-time athlete. So, NFL, weight rooms, regiments, diet plan, all that sort of stuff. I think in 2 years we can get him to the right amount of weight for what we need. And the entire starting 5 for the Cleveland Browns offensive line is in free agency. So might want to address that. Chicago Bears. I've been going Cade McDonald pretty heavily here, more often than not. So my top 2 kind of targets here for the Bears in the first round are Cade McDonald and Akeem Mesidor. So let's go with Mesidor since McDonald's off the board. kind of the bigger body edge rusher that Dennis Allen loves, but he's an NFL-ready guy just when it comes to how deep his bag is and how deep the repertoire of moves is. Primarily wins with inside counters and going across face of offensive linemen. I wonder how much that can translate to the next level. I would love to see a little bit more of a power element to his game. Well, anyways, here we're talking about a guy playing opposite of Montez Sweat, who is that power edge rushing, hard edge setting run defender. Can we get a guy with a deep bag, fast, active hands to be a pass rush technician on the other side? I give you Akeem Mesidor. Also, if you're going to take Mesidor here at 25, he's 5 years younger than Trey Hendrickson, but like if you're looking for a technician, instead of drafting a rookie who might be a technician like Hendrickson, I wonder if they end up just moving this pick. Granted, he's a free agent, so never mind. You're not going to have to move this pick. But I wonder if they address this need, I should say, with Trey Hendrickson in free agency. All right, Buffalo Bills. Denzel Boston's still here. He's the X receiver they're looking for. This feels a little too easy. Am I missing something? Chat, am I missing something? Kenyon Sadiq's still here. God, I let him down. I failed Kenyon Sadiq. He's a hard guy to find a home for, to be completely honest, especially if you don't do Sadiq at 9. Also, small reset, just in case you're joining us. Here's what's happened so far in this class. Mendoza, Tate, Noah, Reese, Fano, yada, yada, yada. That was the first reset. Then we had the pick of Jermon McCoy, and we haven't resetted set. So Jordyn Tyson to be the X receiver in Baltimore. Mansour Delane after the trade back for Miami, addressing their biggest position of need. Kate McDonald to try to fill the shoes of Quinnen Williams. Caleb Loma to try to fill the shoes of Taylor Decker. Lee Hunter to be a compliment next to Jalen Redmond in that middle of that Minnesota defensive line. Cassius Howe to add some more pass rush juice. We'll see what that arm length measurement comes in at for the combine. Keldrick Folk to replace Marshawn Nealon. Casey Concepcion to play second fiddle to DK Metcalf. Caleb Banks because he feels like a Jim Harbaugh guy. Avion Terrell because they need one more corner. And I think Terrell DeJean, one of those two guys, holds it down on the outside. Monroe Frilling to be one of the future offensive line stalwarts for Cleveland. And then Akeem Mesidor, a savvy deep bag pass rusher to play complement opposite of Montez Sweat. So Buffalo Bills. I'll go with Denzel Boston. Let's go Denzel Boston. It's too easy. They need an X receiver. And I almost do wonder if they hit up the trade market. I don't want to give away too much of what we did in fixing the franchise for the Buffalo Bills. You'll see that tomorrow. But some interesting names available as an X receiver for this team. Let's just leave it at that. But Denzel Boston will go here at 26. They could wait. Maybe there's a guy in the next round that could be a fit. But, I almost wonder what Keon Coleman would look like as a Z when you're not trying to force him into playing a role that he's just clearly not, fit for. And then that, Dalton Kincaid, Khalil Shakir, they have all these kind of slot options. So they need a true X. I think that's Denzel Boston through and through. So then the 49ers. So my whole plan here was going to be Caden Proctor, right? With the news of Trent Williams. Will he, won't he be back with the team next year? I don't know. That's kind of murky waters, and the contract situation, that's just tough to navigate. I have a hard time seeing them let him walk, considering how important he is. Every time he misses a game, that's when that offense feels like, oh God, oh shit. They're hitting some murky water here. Even more so than sometimes like, oh, Brandon Ayuk, they didn't have Ayuk at all last year, and that offense hummed, So and Christian McCaffrey's a huge component, Brock Purdy, but even that, we saw them move the ball pretty well without Brock Purdy. So in a lot of ways, it's like Trent Williams is as significant a piece of that offense. So I don't really see them letting him walk, but it does raise an interesting point of like, what are you doing after that? But also the George Kittle of it all. And since Kenyon Sadiq's here, all I can think is like, well, if George Kittle is anything unlike himself post Achilles tear, right? And that's a tough injury to come back from at all, let alone when you're 32 years old. So I'm going to do Kenyon Sadiq here. If Kittle comes back, awesome. We're going to have a 2 tight end set. That's just absolutely badass. But if he doesn't come back, then we've got a guy to replace and fill in that role. And Sadiq's an inline blocker. Like, I know 245 is like a number you normally see, and you're like, oh, that guy's a move tight end. No. Watch the tape. Super strong in his lower half, plays with good leverage, gets underneath guys. This guy's a fine enough inline blocker. So he could definitely be that. I'm not saying he's going to be George Kittle level of blocking, because Kittle's one of one kind of in that regard. But the yards after the catch, the athleticism, and improved route runner, plus you can play him in line as a blocker. If you're going to move on from Kittle, this is probably as good as you got. And frankly, Tonjes is a free agent. So in a perfect world, Kittle comes back and somehow he's the same guy, and you have a really awesome 1-2 punch there. All right, Houston Texans. So Vega Ioane, right? This has got to end the slide for Vega Ioane. Yeah, that ends that slide there. They need some guard help. To be completely honest, I would almost rather see them go right tackle to move Titus Howard inside to guard, but Vega Ioane is the top-rated guy I left on my board here, so addresses a position of need. Home run fit there at 28. And really, frankly, this is as low as I've had him go in probably 3 months. Rams, we went Jermon McCoy. That's right. Caden Proctor would be kind of fun just to let them draft and develop a guy on the opposite side. But I think Warren McClendon's earned the opportunity. And frankly, they gave the opportunity to Alaric Jackson, who wasn't, a first-round pick or anything like that. So if they didn't let McClendon have the opportunity to start after the year he had, it'd be a little weird considering they did the exact same thing for Alaric Jackson. So Ty Simpson at 29. So we did in the last mock. Wasn't really, it was not loved. Not a lot of Rams fans were excited about that. Dylan Thieneman. I know they got Cam Kitchens and Cam Curl, who were two good safeties. But could they reach for a higher ceiling there? Maybe. They don't also normally go linebacker, but could this be, there's also not normally a great linebacker class. This year, it's kind of an abnormality there. Could they replace Omar Spates here? Landman, is 235. Pretty solid run defense grade. Not the greatest coverage grade. Same is true for Omar Spates. What sucks is like the linebackers available here aren't really going to help in the coverage side of it. Could they double up at corner? I think they could. You don't have to, but you could. Rams fans, what do we think, man? This is a tricky spot I put ourselves in here. I almost do wonder, did they go safety? I don't know. Kitchens and Curl are good players, man. Well, wide receivers would be interesting for this team. I mean, Omar Cooper Jr. is totally their type. Man, this is tough. What do I want to do here for the Rams? I kind of don't want to do Ty Simpson again just because we did that in the last mock. I kind of got a plan in place. I've kind of already got an idea of where I'm going to have him go here in the second round. It's for a team that I haven't really mocked him to all but once. So I'll hold off on Ty, even though I do think they would probably pull the trigger on it here. Rams fans, if there's Rams fans watching, help me out. Help a brother out. Do they go Caden Proctor? Let him develop it over on the right side? / could be a guard too. Drew Shelton, but Steve Avila has also played center. So you could move Avila over to center if you decided to move on from Coleman Shelton. Also, what's the contract for Coleman Shelton? Let's see. Coleman Shelton contract. 2-year deal. So you're not attached to him beyond this upcoming season. But if you're looking to take on a project, if you're the Rams, you're probably wanting to win now. Can we just go with both Tennessee corners? Is it a little lazy? Yes. But are those two guys in tandem better than Kobe Durant, Darius Williams, Emmanuel Forbes? Cute turnaround, but do we really want to do that? It's a little lazy, but I think I'm going to go with the second Tennessee corner. I think I'm just going to do it. I haven't done it yet in a mock. It's lazy. I know. It's lazy. But I don't really want to do the Ty Simpson thing, and I don't think they have to force the tackle. I don't think they have to force right tackle here. And you could draft and develop. The thing with the Hennichor is they did run gap 59% of their run plays last year. Fine. I'll hold off on Colton. I'm going to go max Ian Achor. You don't have to play him this year right away. You can still let Warren McClendon. And that's kind of the luxury of this is if Warren McClendon doesn't work out, you have his competition waiting in the wings. If he does work out, you have a good problem on your hand and you have one tackle too many in a league that is desperate for tackle play. So worst comes to worst. I think this is a good problem to have, frankly. So we'll go max Ian Achor there at 29. Kind of crazy to have Ian Achor go ahead of Proctor, but here we are. Denver Broncos. This would have been an interesting Kenyon Sadiq spot, but I kind of knew I wanted to do this ahead of time. I'm going to go Omar Cooper Jr. They need a receiver too. I think there's just a higher ceiling to be had if they got a better wide receiver too there. Sutton's still playing good ball. Troy Franklin struggled with the drops. Also, his frame makes it kind of tough if he gets bumped at the line of scrimmage. And then Marvin Mims is a guy that Sean Payton will occasionally have insane games with where he schemes him open and it's awesome. And then there's weeks where you're like, where's Marvin Mims? So I think Omar Cooper Jr. is just kind of a higher floor version of Troy Franklin, a little bit more filled out, makes a contested grab, sick body control too. So to me, you put Cooper at receiver 2 at specifically the Z/slot. And then it's okay, Troy Franklin's your receiver 3. Marvin Mims is your gadget player at receiver 4. All of a sudden that room looks really, really exciting versus it's okay right now. They get by, So I like that a ton. And it was kind of a pick that I knew I wanted to make before we got started in this mock draft. Hold on real quick. Let me set up this charger. All right. let's keep rolling. New England Patriots, could they go Caden Proctor? I mean, I just, especially considering the week I think Caden Proctor's about to have at the Combine. This is the pre-Combine mock draft for good reason here. I think the week Proctor's going to have, he's going to knock it out of the first round. The downside is they're primarily a gap scheme when it comes to blocking, and they've already announced Will Campbell's their left tackle. I think Proctor's more of a guard, and that would move Jared Wilson over to center. But again, he's a little bit more of a zone fit than gap. I kind of think his power is a little lacking in a lot of ways, but specifically in pass pro, not so much the run game. Randy, if you're watching, you're my resident Pats fan. What would you think about Caden Proctor here? I'm curious. Because it's between Proctor and it's between Dylan Thieneman. Because I could also see them going Dylan Thieneman. Adding one more piece to the back end of that defense. Craig Wilton's awesome. But, Jalen Hawkins was pretty good too last year. Little unconventional, but I'm going to go Caden Proctor, and I'm calling him a guard. Pats fans, don't freak out. I'm calling him a guard. We're going to move Jared Wilson over to center. That should be Jared Wilson's home position anyway. So Caden Proctor's going to be our left guard in New England. And that's going to be hilarious watching Caden Proctor at left guard next to Will Campbell, who he's way bigger than, over at left tackle. So that's a little silly how that worked out. Seattle Seahawks. Let me just double check their linebacker spot. This is a team that I see linebackers a position of need on the PFF board. I'm like, but is it though? They could. I feel like they get good play out of Ernest Jones. He doesn't grade out in PFF system all that well. And then Drake Thomas. So they could go linebacker, but I don't think you absolutely have to force it either. Again, I keep falling back on corner for this team just until we know what's going on. Dylan Thieneman's interesting in the event you lose Kobe Bryant. I think of the wrong NFC West team. I almost always do corner, but for the sake of mixing it up and getting Dylan Thieneman in the first round, I'll go Dylan Thieneman and we'll say Kobe Bryant is gone in free agency. So we'll replace one free safety with another. Let's go Dylan Thieneman there. And also, Mike McDonald can move this guy all over the field. He was a free safety center field guy at Purdue. And then this year at Oregon, we got to see him in split safety looks. He played more in the box. He's a way better tackler this last year with the Ducks. So I think at this point, this is just another versatile chess piece for Mike McDonald just to go crazy with. New York Jets at 33. So we've gone wide receiver, D tackle. Let's go CJ Allen here. Let's go get a thumper in the middle of that defense. That linebacker room could definitely see some improvement. So let's go CJ Allen, guy who could definitely go in the first round. Here's where I'm going to have Ty Simpson come off the board. I don't know what this team's going to do with the Kyler Murray situation, but if they move on from Kyler, then it's Jacoby Brissett, who, by the way, also I think they could cut and save $5 million. I don't think they have to, but also maybe there's a team desperate enough for some camp competition and they go and try to make a move for that. So one way or another, I think Ty Simpson kind of fits in the mix here. He's nothing like Matt Stafford, who Mike LaFleur just worked with, and he's nothing really like Jordan Love either, who his brother Matt LaFleur works with. So that's kind of the one thing that kind of complicates this, but it's just hard for me to believe that they're going to keep Kyler Murray around after he's burned through 2 head coaches at this point. And Jacoby Brissett's not ideal to go into the next season with. So if you get Ty Simpson, top of the second round, I think it's worth it here at 34. All right, Tennessee Titans. We went Arvell Reese. Let's look at the receiver who's still here. I think Chris Bell makes a lot of sense. He really does to me. Any other guys here I take in the second round? Nah, I think Chris Bell. Go get a guy who could be an X or a Z, and then whichever one he's at, I like a Umanor plays the other, and then Chimere DK becomes your slot. This team, I think they're on the up and up, right? Robert Saleh plus Brian Daboll as the OC. I'm intrigued. I'm optimistic about that. Cam Ward, I just want to have more pieces around him. You have to wait for Chris Bell, but I think you're getting him at a bit of a discount. I think he would have gone late first round if he didn't tear his ACL in November. All right, to the Las Vegas Raiders. Christian Miller standing out here. TJ Parker's also standing out as an option. Corner's also a pretty big desperate need. Let me just double check the Raiders depth chart real quick. And I can see a world where they make some moves in free agency. But that being said, Eric Stokes, Darian Porter, and then Jeremy Chin plays the slot. Oof. So yeah, this would have been a good Dylan Thieneman spot. You could also go Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, right? He primarily plays in the box at Toledo, but I think he's got enough athleticism to play some free safety. You also got to think about who's the defensive coordinator coming into the Raiders situation. Raiders defensive coordinator. Why is this name not coming to my mind right off the top of my head? Looks like Rob Leonard. Okay. Run game coordinator. Okay. Interesting. Promoted from D-line coach. Okay. Well, D-line coach makes things interesting. And then corners. Who are the corners on the roster right now? Kai Blue Kelly, Darian Porter, Darnay Holmes. DeMarcarian, Richardson, Eric Stokes. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like you need a corner. Sounds like you need a corner. Cisse or Hood? Cisse or Hood? Let me just look at those listed names again. I think Cisse is the better athlete. Hood probably the more physical of the two. Let's go with Brandon Cisse and anticipate him having a really good week at the Indianapolis Combine. Like, let's look at or the NFL Combine. I don't know why I called it the Indianapolis Combine. The NFL Combine. Let's say that Brandon Cisse then becomes the pick there. So real quick, we've got some more people watching us now. Let's reset. I'll just scroll through the first round. We've already talked through all these picks, and I've showcased it a couple times already. But here is the first round recap. Here in our live 2-round NFL mock draft. I was hoping for more out of the live chat. Come on, guys, step it up. Let me hear some of your thoughts on your picks. Who's your favorite squad? What are you hoping that they come away with in either round 1 or round 2? So start round 2. CJ Allen, give them a new Mike linebacker in the middle of that defense. Ty Simpson to figure out whatever the hell's going on in that quarterback room in Arizona. Chris Bell, the Titans can be patient. They have the time to wait, and I think he could be their number 1 wide receiver before all said and done in that rookie contract. Brandon Cisse, because the Raiders cornerback room has been a mess for like 5 years now. And I say that loving Darian Porter. So hopefully Cisse and Porter are the guys for the years to come. Alrighty. Then we get to the New York Giants and Spencer Fano. So let's look at the wide receiver spot. So we're in a good spot for Chris Bell if we could have gotten it. Jeremy Bernard is kind of the easy one here. Line him up all over the formation. I've said this 1,000 times. I've mocked this pick before. Neighbors is a superstar, and I've described Bernard as like the perfect complement to a superstar receiver. So with Malik Neighbors there, coming off the ACL tear, yes, but if he gets back to anywhere near he was pre-injury, that's a superstar receiver, and Bernard is the perfect complement off of that. Houston Texans with Vega Ioane. We talked about this. I was just on Dom C's YouTube channel, and it's out on Twitter, so check it out there. But me and Devin Jackson were on to talk defensive tackles, and at the end of the episode, we talked favorite fits. And one of the ones that I mentioned in episode, but Devin, the smart man, highlighted as his favorite fit being Christian Miller to the Houston Texans. Mine was Grayson Holton, the Jags, for those wondering. Maybe we'll get to see that here in this video. But Christian Miller, I do think is an awesome fit in the middle of that D-line. I already think he's a high-level run defender, and he's a really good athlete. And he's got these crazy long arms. It's just about developing a pass rush plan. Right now, it's like he's trying to out-athlete people or he's trying to win with the bull rush. Can we expand that bag? Can we expand that portfolio for Christian Miller? And if there's a guy to do it, I mean, I want to see what D'Amico Ryan's got of Christian Miller. And then also the fact that he's going to get one-on-ones in obvious passing situations because he'll be playing on a D-line with Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. Really good spot to find yourself with Christian Miller. And there were a couple games last year for Houston where they got a little beat up being run through the middle. Togiai had a good year, but I think one other really nice run defender would sure that up. All right, Cleveland Browns here at 39. All right, so we've gone wide receiver, we've gone tackle. I hate to be boring, but I think we kind of got to go right guard here, right tackle here. Blake Miller still on the board. I mean, we do that a lot, so I'm a little hesitant to do it again here. But if not that, I mean, there's only so many holes in this roster, and they have 5 guys hitting free agency at the spot. So, like, the other alternative would be Emmanuel Pregnon, who's a great scheme fit for, the zone stuff that Todd Monken's going to run. So for the sake of not always going Blake Miller here, which that being said, I do think Blake Miller makes a lot of sense. I'll go with Emmanuel Pregnon just because I hate doing the same picks over and over and over and over again. It brings no value to whoever's watching these videos. So I'll go Emmanuel Pregnon. So wide receiver, tackle, and guard, trying to address the various areas of need. And the Chiefs, I mean, this is a spot where to me, like, again, Blake Miller makes a lot of sense. I believe we did that in the last mock, actually, for the Chiefs. Jawan Taylor is going to be gone. But wide receiver, could we get them some wide receiver help here? I think it's a little early for Elijah Surratt. Malachi Fields. I think it's a little early for Fields or Brazel. Actually, I don't think it's crazy early for either of them. But Brazel specifically, could he be that field stretcher? Or did they go Fields because of the contested catch ability? Let's go Malachi Fields. Let's ride the hype. Like Todd McShay's put him in the end of the first round of his mock draft. You know what? Screw it. Let's go Malachi Fields here at 40. They just haven't had an X receiver, like a true, put him on the line of scrimmage, let him battle through press coverage. Wide receiver. I couldn't tell you the last guy that really kind of fit that mold. They've had other guys play that role, but like really fits that mold. I couldn't tell you the last guy. So let's go Malachi Fields. We'll figure out whatever's going on with Rashee Rice. That's just like a never-ending evolving situation. Hollywood Brown / Xavier Worthy, feel much better about those guys as a Z. Frankly, Worthy should probably be a slot as well. So I think this guy makes the roles for everyone else fit that much better. So let's go Malachi Fields at 40. I think it's a little early for me personally, but I'm a Notre Dame fan, so I'm one to overlook it. Let's get on to the Cincinnati Bengals here at 41. So we went Caleb down. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of like, you could have waited and got Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. But to counter that, you could have taken David Bailey, and here's TJ Parker staring you in the face. And what's interesting about TJ Parker in the inverse of like another Clemson guy they drafted in Miles Murphy, but even Shamar Stewart last year, they normally like these athletic projects. And TJ Parker will probably test pretty well at the combine. He's got a good first step, and he plays with good power. He's got a good long arm, but he's not the athletic project. So yeah, let's have some fun. Defensive interior. Let me make sure I'm not missing anybody glaring here with the defensive interior group. Yeah, okay. No, we pretty much hit that pretty well clear. So yeah, I think let's do it. Let's go TJ Parker here in the second round. I mean, that's got to be pretty exciting. And again, he's kind of the antithesis of the type of edge rusher we've seen the Cincinnati Bengals attach themselves to over the last, 3 to 5 years of drafting. Let's see. Let's move on now to the New Orleans Saints. This has been kind of my Chase Basanta spot. Hard for me to go somewhere else. Let me look at the defensive interior again. I know we just looked at this. Yeah, it's probably a spot I would address. Like if you could get Dante Corleone at the top of the third round, I do think they could use a run defender in the middle of that D line at nose. Really, it's not nose. Brandon Staley's going to run a 4-man front more often than not. So it's like more of a 4-3 D tackle, which is kind of a 3 tech who maybe you pinch him a little bit closer towards the center in obvious run situations. But again, Corleone Orange, I feel a little bit better about them in the third round. And then, Darrell Jackson, late third, early fourth, Tim Keenan, fourth round. I'd be all over that. So I think you can wait and get better value. And considering Pregnon is gone, I hate being repetitive, but frankly, Chase Basantis is a very good scheme fit. Guard is, to me, clearing away one of the weakest links on that roster. So you plug in Chase Basantis at left guard. He's a good scheme fit. And he's also a great pass protector. So let's just avoid seeing anything of Tyler Shuck with his response to pressure, because last year was better against New Orleans. But if we ever start to see the shades of how he played it at Louisville and the schools before that, could be a little interesting. So Basantis, really good pass protector. Let's just avoid that response to pressure at all possible. All righty. Moving on, once again, Miami Dolphins here at 43 went Mansour Delane. Okay, man, wide receiver does make sense here. Do we want to go? This could be a good Brazzle spot. This could be a Chris Brazzle spot. Am I screwing over anybody obvious by taking him this early? The Bills already went receiver, and then New England at 63, like would have been the other spot. And really, that would kind of leave. Not necessarily. Okay. The thing is, with the Dolphins, like Jalen Waddle, he's a Z. Like I love me some Jalen Waddle, but he can't be your X receiver. So since we've already gone corner, you could look at guard. Basantis would have made some sense, but I feel like this team has neglected offensive line. Now, granted, new regime, so that's where I got to always kind of reset. What they've done in the past isn't what they're going to do. Not just because it's a new head coach, it's literally a new front office. And Jonas Seven, I really struggled last year. Cole Strange, also a free agent. The problem is, Billy Scrouth would probably do that more in the third round than I would here at 43. But Billy Scrouth, definitely a guy who's climbing up boards right now. So I'll hold off, and I would say if we did a third round continuation of this mock, I would go Billy Scrouth in the third round, because I do think guard is a spot where they could address. But to keep Jalen Waddle off the line of scrimmage, keep him at the Z where he's super productive, to keep Malik Washington in the slot where he's most productive, let's go Chris Brazzle. And frankly, if they do want to keep speed as like a huge MO in Miami, Chris Brazzle is going to run really well. Long strides, guy can get down the field. But unlike other Tennessee receivers, like Todd McShay talked about this the other day, and he couldn't pull up the exact clip. I think it was his third route run in the Georgia game. It's before all the touchdowns. Just a great out route, 15 and out, sinks his hips, chops the feet, fluid, smooth. The defender 7 yards away from him. That was the route where I was like, because I remember that game for the Tennessee-Georgia game where he has 3 touchdowns. I remember hearing about it on Twitter, but I didn't watch the game. And I was like, oh, God, here we go again. Another one of these Tennessee receivers. Okay, all right. But then that route popped up, and I'm pretty sure it's either his second or third route he ran that day. And I was like, uh-oh. I mean, this just became like a first down catch. This wasn't even one of the touchdowns, but holy cow, what do we got here? I never saw this from Cedric Tillman. Never saw this from Deontay Thornton. Never once even thought about seeing it from Jalen Hyatt. So very interested in Chris Brazzle as a top 50 guy, much more than those other Tennessee receivers. So keep on the line of scrimmage. I think it fills out the rest of that room really well in Miami. New York Jets on the clock here at 44. Carnell Tate, Caden McDonald, CJ Allen. Wow. Okay. So we're laying a foundation here. I'd like to go corner. Corner definitely makes some sense. Keith Abney or Colton Hood. I'll go Colton Hood, big physical corner. At the end of the day, I think you're going to want to have, or Aaron Glenn's going to want to play a lot of man press. So Colton Hood's kind of got the goods to do that. Big physical corner, one of the strongest corners in this class, in my opinion. Baltimore Ravens, pick 45 win, Jordyn Tyson, that's right. So we could look at 3-techs. I do think 3-techs a spot where they could definitely find an upgrade. Is it Grayson Halton? Inside the top 50 would be juicy, man. I haven't seen him go that high yet in a mock. So what about guard? Again, we've kind of depleted all the really good guard options. Yeah. I'm not reaching for Jalen Farmer here. And that's the other thing is we're looking for gap scheme guys. Yeah. I'm good on that. Corner, right? Like Marlon Humphrey could be. Yeah, I think we're going to go Keith Abney or Chris Johnson. Abney or Chris Johnson. I'll go with Chris Johnson because Kyle Hamilton plays the slot. They can bring back Ardarius Washington. They can bring back Aloy Gilman. And if they do those two moves, then your safeties are Starks, Gilman, Washington, and I think that allows you to keep Kyle Hamilton full-time in the slot. And if you do that, you're really just looking for an outside corner. Marlon Humphrey getting up there in age, coming off his worst season of PFF grading, both overall and in coverage grade. Let's get one more outside corner. You've got to hit Nate Wiggins. Let's go and potentially get the other outside corner for the future. Also, the Ravens can post June 1st cut Marlon Humphrey and save a lot of money against the cap. So just throwing that out on people's radar. Let's go Chris Johnson there at 45. All right, the Bucks, they moved up and they took David Bailey and they got to keep their second-round pick. I mean, I think we could end this video right here, and the Bucks, you guys are the unanimous winners, honestly. David Bailey is the exact position to need. Linebacker's another spot. I'd be very curious, but are they going to do Josiah Trotter? That would be my question. Because the coverage skill set's rough, and you already kind of have that guy with Servassier Dennis. And then I look at corner with Jamel Dean hitting free agency. Could they just go corner? Keith Abney, he might end up being a nickel at the next level. I'm fine playing him on the outside. And then you have Zion McCollum and Ben Morrison. You could go guard. You could go tight end. I think it's a little early to probably go tight end. Let's look at the guards real quick. Yeah, no, we've depleted the guard options, really, to be completely honest. Scrouth again, but I'd probably rather do that next round. So it's Abney or it's Josiah Trotter. Any Bucks fans? Any Buck fans want to chime in on here? What do you think? Abney or Anthony Hill? I'm a little bit lower on Anthony Hill, but I can see where Todd Bowles is like jumping at the bit to do that. So I'll give you guys a few seconds. Let me see what you guys think. Abney, Hill, or Trotter. If we're going off my board, I think Abney is the highest ranked of those guys. Then it'd be Trotter. Let me hear some thoughts. Let me hear from some Bucks fans. All right. I think it's time to make the pick. Let's make the pick. I'm going to go Josiah Trotter and just say that I'm going to say that Bulls can work some magic / Levante David can work some magic. Let's go with Josiah Trotter. Pairing him up with David Bailey, too, like those are two tone setters. Like you need pass rush juice. One guy brings in abundance. You need a violent middle of the field, hammer meets nail player. I give you Josiah Trotter. Okay, let's get to the Indianapolis Colts. 47. I typically go interior defensive line or I go linebacker here. So like I kind of screwed myself, exhausted both those options. So that will force us to do a little something different here. Let's look at the Indianapolis Colts safety spot real quick. Remind me, I know they have Cam Bynum and then Nick Cross. Yeah, Cross hasn't fully emerged and also a free agent, right? Yeah, third round pick, 4 years deep. Frankly, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren's too good to be still on the board. So I'm going to go Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, just kind of best player available approach there. Colts fans, I have not gone safety yet. Let me know your thoughts about pairing him up with Cam Bynum. And on one side, like Bynum's a great free safety, and then McNeil-Warren as like a box safety, tight end eraser. That does sound a lot of fun. All right, Falcons here at 48. Keith Abney to me does make a lot of sense. I think corner's definitely a spot they could attack. Wide receiver, I don't really love the value on some of these guys. So yeah, we'll go Keith Abney here. It's kind of AJ Terrell and not much else when it comes to those cornerbacks in Atlanta. And even if Abney does need to move inside of the nickel, I think that you can live with that. But personally, I think he's fine on the outside. And then you keep Billy Bowman in the slot. I think that would round out that secondary room a whole lot better. And then the Minnesota Vikings, we went Lee Hunter. Hell yeah, dude. Totally forgot about that. This would have been a good Keith Abney spot. This would have been a good Chris Johnson spot. Devin Moore's an option. And I know this scares some Vikings fans, but I'm going to be boring. I'm going to go Connor Lew. Ryan Kelly's not your center next year. I'm sorry. You save like $10 million by releasing him / he saves the well-being of his future life if he retires. So I'm not normally one to tell people how to live, but I would certainly push Ryan Kelly to go ahead and hang it up and be with his family. So in the event of that, center's a huge position of need. And I know Lou's coming off a little bit of a downgraded year, but over a 2-year sample, he's the best center in this class, clearing away to me. So I think here at 49 is a good spot to take him. And he would have been a really good Frank Ragnow replacement here for the Detroit Lions. So you snipe another NFC North foe. I feel like you got to go corner here, but I do corner all the time here in the second round, and it's typically freaking Devin Moore. What I will say is they could go D'Angelo Ponds and just live with him on the outside. They have certainly shown an affinity for small corners and just saying, hey, we're going to deal with it. DJ Reed, Terrion Arnold, and this Rakestraw. All priority additions, a first, a second, and then a early free agent signing. You know, where do we go edge? Because in a lot of ways, Akis is like a really good fit. Gabe Akis would be a badass. Zion Young would be awesome. They're bringing back Al-Qadim Muhammad, but you can never have too much defensive line, depth. And especially Akis' ability to fold inside on passing downs, that can make it really easy to play him. And also like Tyleek Williams, not really a guy you want to have out there on passing downs, specifically right now. I don't know. Last year he showed some decent pass rush juice. I don't want to be too mean. I don't want to be too rude. But Ali McNeil's also a guy, like ideally you'd get the pass rush upside out of him. So, this is tough. I think it's no other center I think I take here for the Lions. So I'm really down to between edge and corner. Akis would be fun. Zion Young is kind of practical though. And that's kind of where I'm between those guys. Or do you just go D'Angelo Ponds and say, hey, they're going to do it again? Let's do it. Let's think. Let's do a little something different. Again, I like exploring different possibilities. They've shown an affinity for small corners. Let's go D'Angelo Ponds. And also, Brian Branch is playing more safety than he is nickel nowadays. So in the event that Ponds just becomes the slot, that's an open position for grabs. So that's kind of where I see Ponds at the next level is playing slot. Carolina Panthers, they already went Cassius Howell. I was about to sprint the card in for Zion Young here, but that's right. We already did this. I'll go Max Clare here, tight end too. I do think tight end's a spot they can get better. They could use another pass catcher in that offense, considering Xavier Legette. He's had some moments, like some flashes, some interesting games last year, but for the most part, it's Tedero McMillan, it's Jalen Coker, and I think Clare would fall in as pass catcher 3 in that offense. And also this year, bulking up, getting to play more in line, you've gotten to see him being a little bit more of a prototypical NFL offense. Green Bay Packers, since he's available, I'll go with Devin Moore here. It's been a couple mocks since we've been able to do this because he's been going to the Lions. This team has ignored corner for long enough, so I think it's we're just outside the top 50, but basically the top 50 talent here with Devin Moore. Love him, especially in zone coverage, and that's been a very zone-heavy defense the last 2 years in Green Bay. Pittsburgh Steelers, Casey Concepcion in the first round. This probably have to be Keontae Scott. I think this kind of have to be Keontae Scott. The Steelers desperately need a nickel, and he's the best corner available on top of that. So, yeah, Keontae Scott it is. We haven't had a high-end impact nickel player since Mike Hilton left in free agency to go to Cincinnati, so Keontae Scott. Casey Concepcion and Keontae Scott, like two ballers, two my guys for sure. So, love that from, a homer standpoint. Philadelphia Eagles, Avion Terrell in the first round. So you could go tight end. You could go inter-offensive line or offensive line in general. Blake Miller's here still. God, I've neglected Blake Miller way too long in this mock draft. Could you draft and stash him and just have him waiting in the wings for when Lane Johnson retires? It is tempting. That is tempting. But I'm going to say no and say you get inter-offensive line in a later round. Right now, let's add to that edge group. Let's add Zion Young to be the Brandon. Let's not have Brandon Graham come out of retirement again. Let's go Zion Young there at 54. Power rusher, really good run defender. And I think he makes the life of, if they bring back Azeez Ojulari, he makes that as a rotational role that much easier. Jalix Hunt, kind of a DPR specialist pass rusher, doesn't need to be playing a full-time snap count. Zion Young helps make that possible. LA Chargers. Now let's look at the offensive line options. And Blake Miller is here. We're looking for more interior offensive line. So that's where it's like, and I've been saying Billy Scrouth. I'd rather have Billy Scrouth in the third round. Billy Scrouth in the third round. And I pass on him for so many teams. Now, granted, those two teams were picking early 40s. Now we're in the mid 50s. So it's a little different. Do we go Billy Scrouth here? Was playing a really good football until he got hurt this year. Brian Parker the second's another name to know. He'd probably be my second highest rated center. And he's much more of a Mike McDaniel fit. Let's do that. I've been saying Billy Scrouth third round. And personally, I'd probably rather take Brian Parker the second in the second round, but they need a center of the future, and he's a perfect fit. You saw how good Aaron Brewer was last year in Miami, fit for that Mike McDaniel offense. I give you Brian Parker the second. Really good mover. I think he's going to test pretty well this week in Indy. Plus, we got to see him at the Shrine Bowl play at center, and that makes that projection that much easier, actually getting the chance to see him do it. All right, Jacksonville Jaguars. I hinted at it, where Devin said his favorite fit for the IDL group was Christian Miller to Houston, and I love that fit. Grayson Holton to the Jags. They were the fourth highest rate of stunts and twists last year in the NFL, and Grayson Holton, one, explosive out of his stance and fast, active hands. And I think on stunts and twists, 293 pounds will look like a blur screaming across the face of guards. Also, just not the most sexy interior defensive line group. Thought they might have drafted that position last year. They can use some more pass rush juice in and of itself. So really good Senior Bowl for Grayson Holton. I like the tape every single time I watch it. He's kind of one of these comfort players. Like, I'm not saying he's my top interior defensive lineman or anything, but every time I watch Grayson Holton, I have a smile ear to ear on my face. So big fan of the player. And I think he's a great fit for the team. Now, 56 is about as high as you're going to see him in most mocks, but I think it's a home run fit for the Jags. 4-man front, let this guy get upfield, single gap shoot. He was a good run defender for being sub 300 pounds, where Rashawn Benny has natural leverage and kind of holds his own and sits and squats, holds that point of attack. Sub 300 pounds. He's just got great lower body strength. Holton does it with more gap shooting, but he also has some good pound for pound strength. So I like him as addition to Josh Hines Allen, Trayvon Walker, Eric Armstead, all those guys already on that D line in Jacksonville. So Akeem Mesidor was the first round pick for the Chicago Bears. What do we want to do here? AJ Holsey's interesting. What linebackers? I feel like I don't go linebacker all that often for Chicago. So, like, could this be an interesting time to do a Jake Golday, right? I know Edmonds and I know TJ Edwards missed time last year. Or do you go and get an Andrew Billings replacement? It's a little early for me with Big Citrus or Dante Corleone and Darrell Jackson for that matter. But at least with Darrell Jackson, you can sell yourself on like the project upside. Yeah, really good run defender. He's a little high cut, but his flashes of strength are like, oh my God, whoa, where'd that come from? So have some fun. Let's go Darrell Jackson Jr. I can see them where they're willing to take on a little bit of a project, get the run defense ammunition to that defense. And, he could be a guy that in 2 years' time, because 35 plus inch arms, crazy amount of power, we look back at him as like 57. That's how late he went. Yeah, so let's go with Darrell Jackson Jr. I also haven't mocked that team to player fit, so always like exploring different player team fits. 49ers, we went Kenyon Sadiq in the first round. Let's explore some offensive line options for this team. Blake Miller. He's a great scheme fit. I know Colton McKivitz is still there, and this is like nothing against. I'm not trying to slander Colton McKivitz, but I can't keep having Blake Miller fall. Perfect scheme fit. Let's have him go 58 there. And frankly, we also don't know. It was Colton McKivitz. He's on a 1-year deal, right? Let me just double check real quick. Colton McKivitz contract. I believe he's on a perennial 1-year deal. Oh, no, it's on a 3-year, $45 million deal. So, okay, we might. Worst comes to worst, Blake Miller can then move inside to play right guard. I know you have Dominic Pooney there. You know what? I have not used this feature yet. Boop, undo pick. There you go. Watched it live. Undo pick. So we'll hold off on Blake Miller. Frankly, maybe we do it at 59 or 63. Worst comes to worst, we'll do 63 to New England. He'll just sit behind Morgan Moses for a year. All right, so we undid the pick. I never do that. That was hilarious. I also love that they added that feature. Any wide receiver that I love here for San Francisco? Zachariah Branch feels kind of like a 49er type. Antonio Williams, I think, is getting hated for no reason. DeJon Stribling's like your Jawan Jennings replacement. So in a lot of ways, you draft Sadiq to go in partnership or to replace George Kittle. DeJon Stribling to go in partnership / to replace Jawan Jennings does make some sense. And you already have Ricky Pearsall, who's struggling to stay healthy, but what would the alternative be? Don't really love the guard options, unless we did the Billy Scrouth thing, which we've talked about ad nauseum. But his name keeps coming up because he's a good football player, and he just had a season cut short. Yeah, USC game. But he's playing good football, especially in pass protection to me. Yeah, pass block rate 2.7. Let's do it. Fine, Billy Scrouth. I've talked about his name so many times. Let's just do Billy Scrouth. Houston, Texas. We went Vega Ioane and then Christian Miller. And then, frankly, dude, we could go Blake Miller and really try to improve that offensive line. But I'm going to go Jadarian Price. I love giving this team Jadarian Price. I think he's a great compliment to Woody Marks. Marks is a really nice pass catcher. That's the one part of Jadarian Price's game we don't really know what it is the next level because they didn't ask him to do it. And he's also like the workload component, a little bit of a question mark there just because he's always been playing second fiddle to someone. But that being said, he'd be working in tandem to Woody Marks. So I'm a little less concerned about his workload and how he will respond to it at the next level. And now he gets to run behind Vega Ioane. What's not to love? All right, Buffalo Bills, Denzel Boston in the first round. Cool. What would we want to do? Do we want to go D-line? Pass rush does make some sense. Safety also could make some sense. They still need one more guy on top of Cole Bishop. It just comes down to, do you like Cole Bishop playing free safety? Or do you like him playing strong? Let me go see something real quick. Let's go look at Cole, Mr. Bishop, Mr. Utah. Primarily last year at free safety. But 311 snaps inside the box. The reason I ask is like Genesis Smith in a Jim Leonard single high heavy defense could be a lot of fun. Is Genesis Smith that much better than AJ Halsey, Kamari Ramsey, Zakay Wheelie? Because like Halsey also plays a lot over the top, can play some in the box. Playmaker, really good instincts, got the peanut punch down. Also, Kamari Ramsey, if you don't look at his tape last year where he was playing in the nickel and go back to when he was playing free safety at USC back in 2024, more ball production, a better year, more coverage or better coverage grade as well. You can see 250 snaps in the slot, 164 the year before, but more opportunities in the deep half of the field. Oh, man. That's tricky. What do I want to do here for the Bills? I think we kind of got to go safety. Linebacker's also interesting. I could see a world where they're like, give me Jake Golday. Because Bernard, I believe, is hitting free agency. They could be bringing him back for sure. Milano's hitting free agency. And then you have Dorian Williams. I think I might go Jake Golday here. I'm going to go Jake Golday. I haven't done this fit before, I don't believe, but I'm going to go Jake Golday. Get younger, cheaper, and still very athletic at the position. So let's go Jake Golday there at 60 for the Buffalo Bills. And then that takes us to the Rams. We went Max Iheanacho, and we went Jermon McCoy. We don't have to. I'm not going to do the Nuss thing. Nobody likes seeing Nuss in a 2-round mock draft, apparently. So, honestly, I think maybe this is where we double up on corner. Could we add a little bit more pass rush juice to this team? Or do we go... Los Angeles Rams. What should we do with you? Byron Young, Jared Verse. They're both awesome. Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner on the inside. Both awesome. And then Josiah Stewart last year. That's right. They already added Stewart. They're good problem to have, man. Good problem to have for the Rams. Good problem to have. Gabe Akis, man. Letting him stay on the board this long is a little iffy. Derek Moore, Kamari Ramsey. Any corner I feel like this team would really like? Dylan Everett, trading Stukes, Benosin, Julian Neal. I like more in the third. Man, I've hit a wall here with the Rams. I think they can go one more corner. I just don't know who it would be out of these options. I really don't. Or is it just linebacker to replace Omar Speights? I wonder if it's just linebacker to replace Omar Speights. Let's just go Jacob Rodriguez. I like Rodriguez more in the middle of the third than I do at 61, but man, the Rams got a really freaking good roster, man. They make life hard doing these mock drafts. Denver Broncos. We went Omar Cooper Jr. in the first round. This is another time. Damn, I meant to low-key kind of save Jadarian Price. I think Jadarian Price and RJ Harvey would be a sick 1-2 punch in the backfield. It'd be back-to-back years taking a second-round running back, but that would be such a sick 1-2 moving forward. Could go Eli Stowers to give them their, Taysom Hill project. But what I think I'm going to do is Michael Trigg. I think from a lot of standpoints, and like I'm not the world's biggest Michael Trigg fan, but I think from a receiving standpoint, he is clear-cut one of the better guys in this class. He's just like the most unwilling blocker you'll ever see, and he's also been dismissed from a couple of the teams. So some of the character stuff is a little bit of a concern, but if you're looking for a Jimmy Graham type joker, middle of the field, mismatch weapon against safeties and linebackers, Michael Trigg's the guy. New England Patriots, we already went Keen Proctor, so we went guard. Yeah, okay. So, yeah, I don't really want to do the Blake Miller thing here, even though like Blake Miller has been around on this board for entirely too long. I'm going to go Ted Hurst, big body, ex-receiver. I thought he had a good Senior Bowl. To me, he went from like third round to second round conversations, at least the way I evaluate him. Can do some stuff after the catch, really smooth mover with the ball in his hands, but also the vertical speed, the ability to stack corners, really good concentration at the one-handed grab over Julian Neal out the Senior Bowl. So the team's looking for an ex-receiver. And I think they're willing to take a shot here on Ted Hurst at 63. So then we get to the Seattle Seahawks. Anthony Hill Jr. would be kind of interesting just because, like, what could Mike McDonald do with this guy? But frankly, I know Abe Lucas is a good football player. This is not Abe Lucas slander, not by any stretch, but Blake Miller can't get out of the top 64. And Abe Lucas has missed a lot of time in his career. So I'm kind of leaning in that direction. I'd be really kind of disappointed if I ended this with him still on the board. In a lot of ways, Keelan Rutledge just makes more sense, though. He's your right guard. hate to do it, but I mean, crazy shit happens every year in the NFL draft. Let's go Keelan Rutledge. We'll go Keelan, which is becoming like my 64th pick in almost every mock draft nowadays. But guys, live 2-round NFL mock draft. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Who went too high? Who went too low? And who's your favorite team? And what did you think of the haul that I gave your squad? Rolling through all 64 picks. I appreciate everyone hanging out with us to do this live. I don't get to do these live, and I was hoping to have some good back and forth in the live chat and just have you guys help make some of these picks. We will be doing a post-combine NFL mock draft that'll come out next Monday. It'll be mock draft Monday next week for yours truly. So that one will be pre-taped, but it'll be out by the middle of the day, if not early evening at the absolute latest. So we will have a post-combine mock draft, and it'll be interesting to compare this one to that one to see who are the big names that all of a sudden shift all the way up in the first round or make their presence known in the top 64. I'm very curious to see how it all plays out once we get all those official numbers and measurements and all that fun jazz at the Indianapolis Combine. Well, thank you everyone for spending some time with us. If you watched live, drop some comments, hit the like button, all that fun stuff. Really appreciate. Specifically, if you can help out the channel, it's a free way to do so. Hit the like button, leave a comment. If you can swipe over in the comment section and you're watching the replay, hit the hype button. It's free, but it's a big part of the YouTube algorithm and helps us out a ton. So we got Fixing the Franchises coming out. We got 2 more coming out tomorrow, and then it'll be pretty much 2 a day up until we get to the start of NFL free agency. So plenty of NFL draft offseason content coming from yours truly here on the 32 Beat Writers YouTube channel and on our X account. So be sure to like, follow, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And I hope you all enjoyed today's video and today's mock draft. Be on the lookout for Monday's updated mock draft. But until then, we are signing off.